Homewood Field in Baltimore, Maryland, historic home base for Johns Hopkins University lacrosse. After suffering through a rare losing season in 2010, this young Blue Jays squad has risen to a number 3 national ranking and suddenly has aspirations of championship glory, with vivid memories of their 9th title back in '07. Tonight, a resurgent group of Albany Great Danes stands in their way with Old Spice College lacrosse on ESPNU. Let's kickstart your weekend in style with Old Spice College lacrosse. Tonight, the Great Danes of Albany begin their busy weekend with a trip to Baltimore and a bout with third-ranked Johns Hopkins. Nice to have you aboard. Along with Mark Dixon, I'm Joe Beninati. Dave Petramala prowling on the sideline in his 11th season as the boss of Johns Hopkins lacrosse, and his winning percentage is extraordinary.
Really doing a great job. And there is his counterpart, Scott Marr. These two were teammates at Johns Hopkins, very good friends, and this is a key game for both ball clubs.
Officials today, Kevin Forrester, Bob Manfuso, and Keith Runk. Johns Hopkins at home wearing the white. Opening draw, first possession belongs to Keith Olson, and the Great Danes in the purple and gold. Matt Delente has been outstanding this year, 4 in white with the ball at the face-off X, getting the Blue Jays possessions time after time. Johns Hopkins settles in, first chance on offense, a mark of 7-2, tangling with Albany, a record of 4-5. Back behind the cage, it's Zach Palmer. Picking him up, Mike Banks, the top cover guy for Scott Marr's Great Danes. This is Ranigan straight away. Getting help from Guida. Nice complimentary midfielder. Palmer, jitterbugs to the crease. Ranigan keeps it hot. Greeley on the shuffle step, jump shot, he scores.
The play is created by something that doesn't happen very often for this Johns Hopkins offense, and that's Zach Palmer dodging. And we're gonna see the quick slides from the Albany defense. Slide off of John Greeley. Ball goes over to Ranigan. Ranigan gets it to Greeley. A little pump fake, betters his angle, and puts it past the freshman, Edmund Cathers. Terrific start for the Blue Jays.
John Greeley among the top 5 point producers for Johns Hopkins. Olson and Delente back at the X. And Delente, who comes into tonight's action, second best in the nation. Only Adam Rand of Stony Brook better. Controls that face-off.
Doing such a great job at the face-off square. When you talk about improvement overall for Johns Hopkins, it really has started at the face-off, where Delente only won 45% a year ago. Really a leader on this young Blue Jay ball club.
Phil Castronova, short stick defensive midfielder out there for the Blue Jays as they're still going through their substitution pattern. Most experienced performer, top games played guy, Kyle Wharton on the ball. Blue Jays are lightning fast starters. This is 6 times now this season that they have struck on the game's first shot.
And incredibly important to get off to a good start. Albany's a team, they're very streaky. They're coming off a 4-game losing streak, beat Harvard last weekend, but the longer you let a team like Albany hang around, the more their confidence swells. Great start for Johns Hopkins.
Coppersmith has an excellent split dodge. He's showing it off there to the long stick midfielder, Scott Raffensperger. Back behind the cage, it's Boland. Oldest player on this squad, Chris Boland, teaming up with Zach Palmer. You can see the rain pelting down, a cold, rainy, raw night in Baltimore. Sneak attack, and it's Cathers making the save there.
Great positioning. Cathers is a big kid, 5'9", 240 pounds. Boland took the necessary step to get the angle, but Cathers held him off and held his position beautifully.
Great Danes love to play for that youngster, the freshman 18-year-old Edmund Cathers, who bumped John Carroll from the starting spot in the first month of the season. Johns Hopkins will get possession here.
A little bit of a procedure call against Albany, may have been an illegal substitution. Albany cannot afford to give the Blue Jays second chances. They have to clear and get that ball from defense to offense all night long.
Moving towards the 3-minute mark, Old Spice College Lacrosse from Homewood Field. Blue Jays on top thanks to a John Greeley strike. Mr. Greeley has the ball right now. Teaming up with John Ranigan and Rob Guida in the top midfield unit for Dave Petramalo. Wharton is an outstanding shooter as they circle it up. Guida, excellent burst. It's the first step that creates for him. Ranigan powers to the middle. Skip pass, Wharton, deflected away by Cathers, who took the angle away.
We can see the defensive philosophy of Albany. They're stretching the defense out, not letting the Johns Hopkins midfielders get long runs at them. That's opening things up underneath for the Johns Hopkins attack.
For the Blue Jays, you just saw the keys for them. We'll share more with Albany in a moment as Greeley goes to the sweep. Banks hedging there. Patient approach from the Blue Jays, on top by 1. Wharton has the short stick defender there, Daley Baker. Palmer, skip a man, Greeley over the top, and too tall. Mark, if Albany is to pull the upset, what needs to happen tonight?
Well, first of all, they got to get the ball on offense, and if and when they do, they've got to keep it hot, crisp ball movement, and we already hit on it. Defense to offense, clear the ball, not only to get possessions, but Albany loves to run and really thrives in the transition game.
Guida sprints to the middle and finds Ranigan. Flexes it off for Palmer. Marked there on the outside by Travis Lyons. Dive attempt through the crease. They're going to wash it out. No goal. Kyle Wharton's had one of those washed out before this season. A very timely tally in overtime against Syracuse.
We'll get a good look at this and see if his foot touches the crease line. And they're going to say it was a dive as Wharton left his feet on his own volition. Really no contact. Smart defensive play. The Albany defender stepped back and allowed Wharton to propel himself into the crease.
Another misfire for the Great Danes. The turnover totals continue to mount. Blue Jays with a quick restart. Ranigan for Boland, off the pipe. Cathers stepping out there. A failed clear. Ranigan unsettled, marches into the alley. Sharp angle. Drifted it wide of the cage. Edmund Cathers will start the clear. Scott Marr tells us this goaltender, this freshman, can throw rockets on outlets.
Leads the transition game, a great stopper, several 20-stop performances in a couple of games this year for Albany. He's a special talent and unseated a very good goaltender in John Carroll to get the starting nod.
Jack Nickla, long stick defender, bringing it ahead, and a timeout is called for by Albany. Johns Hopkins has the 1-0 advantage. John Greeley on the board. We'll get you back for more Old Spice College Lacrosse in a moment from Baltimore, Maryland. Johns Hopkins has taken 8 of 9 straight up against Albany all time. They've got a 1-0 advantage in the opening quarter. Our Warrior Impact players first for the Blue Jays.
A trio of sophomores. Lee Coppersmith complements Ranigan and Greeley in the midfield. And we're going to see 2 of the best defensive players in the nation. Again, only sophomores, Tucker Durkin and goaltender Pierce Bassett.
Who are the headliners likely to be for Albany?
Well, Joe Resiteritz, the last name Resiteritz, synonymous with Albany lacrosse. His older brother Frank was a stellar All-American. Brian Caulfield, he's a Major League Lacrosse selection of the Rochester Rattlers. And Edmund Cathers, the freshman netminder. We've seen him already make several big stops.
We've referenced Albany, just 1 win against Johns Hopkins. You brought up the name of the guy who scored the game-winning goal back in '07. Frank Resiteritz. Brother Joe is an energy guy for this Albany squad. He has the ball right now. His pass for Bonatonomous gets lost in the rain. Another turnover for the Great Danes.
A terrible start for Albany. It's their 5th turnover. Scott Marr had to burn a timeout just to get them an offensive possession. And that is an unforced error. Just an exchange pass up top goes awry. You can see the rain really coming down. Maybe the sticks of the Albany Great Danes have been affected. Your mesh pocket tends to bag out.
You read my mind because this is the hardest it has rained since warm-ups tonight here at Homewood Field. I was going to ask you how that impacts the players and their crosses. The temperatures, I'm not buying 47 degrees, by the way, as Coppersmith runs for cover. Chris Bolin will play catch with him. Lee Coppersmith, back-to-back game winners. Dave Petramala says of 16 in the white, he's a terrific athlete. They're thrilled to have Eric Rule back in business, 20 in white, just off the injured list.
Eric Rule, a great shooter, and he's going to take advantage of some short stick matchups. You can see Coppersmith draws the long pole.
Wharton slings it for Goodrich, who's inverted, and then Bolin comes to the rescue. 1-0 advantage for Johns Hopkins. They've had the time of possession, they've had the territorial lead. Still just the John Greeley goal to show for it. Cathers has made a couple of good stops, and he's been helped by the goalpost a time or two. Chris Bolin, a couple of years back, a 5-goal performance against Albany. They got tricky, they put a short stick defender on him, and he burned them. Coppersmith slithers to the alley. Goodrich for Bolin to the inside. He scores!
We're going to see excellent body control on the replay. Short stick was on Chris Bolin. They switched off real quick, but watch him fake pitch. He draws Cathers off the pipe. Cathers thinks he's going to shoot right there where his stick is. He steps out to meet the stick. Bolin just hesitates ever so slightly. Tremendous body control, great wrist strength. He sends it near pipe where Cathers vacated.
Low angle look there really gave you an example of the body control of Chris Bolin. Deftly tucking that one in. Delente wins the draw. Another possession for Johns Hopkins on top by 2 as we near the midway mark of the opening quarter. Bolin shaded by Jack Nickla. One of the pleasant surprises, a close defense for Albany. Head coach Scott Marr said Nickla proved him wrong. Brannigan comes to get it. Guida is next in line.
First midfield unit back on the field for Johns Hopkins. Dave Petramala and everyone in lacrosse world described this as a trap game for Johns Hopkins. Playing this game sandwiched between Syracuse, Virginia, North Carolina, and Maryland next week. Hopkins doing a great job getting off to this fast start.
Brannigan running downhill. Wharton has a defender hung up. Sneaks. Cathers crosses over and makes the save. Edmund Cathers. You mentioned his big save performances. He had 21 against Bucknell earlier this season, 3 so far tonight.
His shot-stopping ability allows the Albany defense to take chances and create transition. He is such a talented stopper, and they have confidence in him that he's going to make the saves necessary to play this up-tempo style that Albany really enjoys.
Albany finally gets the ball into the cross of its quarterback, Brian Caulfield. He and Rocky Bonatonomous working up top. If Albany is to work well this evening offensively, it's likely to be in number 28 stick an awful lot.
Brian Caulfield, 6'4", broke his jaw a year ago. Albany struggled. Injury, missed 2 games this season. Albany dropped both of them. He is a vital component to Scott Marr's attack unit.
Hopkins goalie Pierce Bassett may need another warm-up. He's been downright lonely, hasn't faced a shot yet, as we're nearing 6 minutes to go in the opening quarter. Bonatonomous, defended by Guida. Rolling back, Resiteres. No running room for him. Miles Thompson gets inside, slings it off the outside of the net. Miles and Ty Thompson, numbers 2 and 3 in the purple. They are cousins, and they are very crafty.
Tremendous recruits by Scott Marr when you consider most Native American players go to Syracuse. You think of Marshall Abrams. You talk about Sid Smith, Cody Jamison, Brett Bucktooth. Jeremy Thompson is at Syracuse right now. Great recruiting crew for Albany to get the Thompson cousins, and then Lyle Thompson, the younger brother of Miles, comes next year.
I was going to say, they're not done yet. They're not done yet. 2-0 for Johns Hopkins. Greeley and Boland on the board if you're just tuning in. Coppersmith from the unlikely lacrosse hotbed of Florida. It's hot, but they don't play a lot of lacrosse down there.
He comes to Hopkins with a surfboard, a tan, and a close loss to boys Latin during his high school career. St. Andrews, one of the premier programs in the state of Florida and building a national reputation.
Palmer and Boland playing the 2-man game behind the Albany goal. This is Coppersmith, an outstanding athlete, switching it up. Burkhart running downhill. Doesn't take his own shot there. They work it inside. Bang, bang for Mark Goodrich.
The weather certainly is not affecting the stick work or the crisp passing of the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays. You bang the ball backside. Typically then Bolin would hit the backside. Goodrich recognizes a little bit of ball watching on the part of the Albany defense, streaks down the middle, beautiful feed. Goodrich redirects it into the back of the net. And the senior, oft injured during his career here at Homewood, putting together a stellar fourth-year campaign.
Missed all of 2010 with a torn Achilles. Delente, one of the leaders for this team, wins another draw. Delente has taken 3 of the 4 skirmishes at midfield. Johns Hopkins has a chance to enhance its 3-0 advantage.
And you think about the opening face-off. Delente lost it. Albany picked up the ground ball, but Marshall Burkhart off the wing created a turnover. So not only is Delente doing a great job individually, but his ring play has markedly improved in 2011 versus last season.
Mark, it is Bolin and Goodrich already with multi-point performances. Johns Hopkins off to a flying start. This is like the 3rd week in a row that they performed very well at the outset of a lacrosse game.
Big League Joe against Virginia and North Carolina, only to hold him off in the end. Dave Petramala wants that complete dominant effort tonight.
The open man is Bolin. Cathers took a knee to make the save, and then the rebound is cleared to safety by Daly Baker. Clearing time for the Great Danes. Dave Petramala said, you know what, we're going to have to ride in this game, and right now his Blue Jays in white are in a riding posture.
They've done a great job so far. First successful clear, but I take it back as Albany turns it over with a dangerous pass inside. Poor decision right there. Get it down the side, get yourself a nice offensive flow.
Rannigan was in the passing lane for the deflection. As you can see, the rain continues to pelt down here at Homewood Field. Rannigan waiting for the substitutions to continue and complete. Oh, Greeley with a good split. Finds Bolin. And then Palmer. Wharton is the shooter, loves to play on that far flank and crank up those left-handed high heaters. Bolin reversing the flow for Greeley. Now Rannigan drawing the double. Raffensperger turns him back. Guida shakes from Baker. Bolin on the dip and dunk, and Cathers snuffed it out.
Cathers is doing a great job of following the player's stick. His stick is mirroring the Chris Bolin stick. He does a great job of holding his position, and he's very efficient in his movements.
Great Danes with the clear here. Travis Lyons doing the honors. A junior from Farmingdale, New York on Long Island. Throughout the night, you'll be seeing numbers at the bottom of the screen. All the stats unfold. Fierstein fires. There's Bassett's first save of the contest. The outlet is right on the mark for Rannigan. Rumbling ahead. Rannigan slings one past Cathers. That was a rocket.
Dave Petramala, when we spoke to him this week, said everybody thinks we are a 6-on-6 team, but we will push the tempo and run transition when given the opportunity. Great outlet pass by Pierce Bassett, and watch the sophomore from Yorktown do the rest of the work. Beautiful dodge, just a power dodge, and he catches Edmund Cathers cheating. Just said he's very efficient in his movements. He bent down low. Rannigan recognized it, put it right past him high, stick side.
Rannigan in his sophomore season, his coming out party, his first career hat trick was against Albany last year on this field. The Blue Jays blitzed the Great Danes. Johns Hopkins sharing the wealth in this first quarter. 4 different scores on the board.
Big difference this year from last year is the offensive balance of the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays. Last year they relied so much on Michael Kimmel and Stephen Boyle. But this year, Greeley, Guida, Rannigan, Wharton, Bolin, Palmer, Coppersmith. That's 7 names right there, right off the top, Joe, that can hurt you if you don't pay attention to their offensive talent.
Mark, the guys in white averaging 11 goals a game this season. That's among the top 12 in the nation in Division I. Coppersmith ran off the shooting angle. Time's wasted in this opening quarter, 1:18 left in it. Coppersmith off the face dodge sends it wide of the goal. Lee Coppersmith readying for another offensive possession. Johns Hopkins has had the ball the vast majority of these first 15 minutes.
Coppersmith so explosive as a Dodger. And getting an opportunity 2 weeks ago when John Greeley got hurt against Virginia, game winner against the Cavaliers, game winner a week ago at the Conica Minolta Big City Classic against North Carolina.
Strong defense there behind the goal from Cody Fuchsia, another 18-year-old freshman for Albany. Burkhart's pass, that crossed up Bolin, handcuffed him a bit, and this will belong to Albany.
Fuchsia again with a nice play, deflected the ball, changed the vision of Chris Bolin. He wasn't able to handle it as it deflected off a Bolin stick out of bounds. So Fuchsia, the talented freshman out of Schenectady, New York, makes the great play.
No other way to characterize this, Mark. This is an awful night for lacrosse. I mean, it is cold, it is pouring down, raining sideways, and right now Johns Hopkins is having its way with Albany.
This is when you wish you played on grass and the game potentially could be canceled.
No. This is when you wish you played in a dome, my friend. A dome. Caulfield working in against Jack Riley, the freshman long stick defender. Bonatonomous lets it go. He scores!
Six seconds left in the first quarter, and exactly what Albany needed. Good defensive work by Jack Riley, but look at Caulfield, so smart, steps away from the pressure of Riley. Bonatonomous steps in, beautiful high to low shot. That's the feeding ability of Brian Caulfield and why he is going to be playing this summer for Rochester Rattlers.
In Major League Lacrosse, Bonatonomous, 6 goals now, all 6 of them at even strength. 6 seconds to go in the quarter. Face-off win for Castronova and the Blue Jays. A long heave at the horn, and we are done with 15 minutes in Baltimore. Johns Hopkins ranked number 3 in the land and showing off its offensive might. On top 4-1 after 1 quarter of play. Johns Hopkins Blue Jays have won 4 of their last 5. They've got a 4-1 lead after 1 tonight. Mark, these two head coaches have a great deal of respect for one another, and it stems from their collegiate amateur playing days.
Take a look at the 1989 Johns Hopkins Blue Jays. There's Dave Petramala on your left, and his teammate Scott Marr, dead center. This team went to the NCAA championship that game, lost to Syracuse, but also in this picture are other current Division I head coaches, Brian Volker from Drexel, Seth Tierney from Hofstra. You've got Billy Dwan, who's the associate head coach at Johns Hopkins, and you have Don Zimmerman, was their head coach in 1989, now the head man at UMBC, and countless assistants, Kevin Bolin at Vermont, Todd Cavallero, head coach at Franklin and Marshall. The coaching tree at Hopkins, very strong.
Such a far-reaching coaching tree when you think about it. As we settle in for the start of quarter number 2, it's Johns Hopkins in Albany. Along with Mark Dixon, I'm Joe Beninati. We're here at Homewood Field in Baltimore, Maryland. Blue Jays bagged the first 4 goals on the night. Greeley, Bolin, Goodrich, and Ranigan in succession. Rocky Bonatonomous has answered for Albany in the visiting purple and gold. Kyle Wharton off of one of his best performances. A number of people think it was his overall best a week ago against North Carolina at the Meadowlands. Ranigan delivers for Guida. Quick shake and fire off the inside of the post again. The ricochet for Greeley. Johns Hopkins, the lacrosse ball movement has been very good for about a month now.
They're sharing the ball, keeping it hot, really moving around and keeping defenses guessing. Something you didn't see a year ago as there was a lot of one-on-one individual play. The teamwork for Johns Hopkins in 2011 is off the charts.
Ranigan marching to the alley. The quick double comes from the freshman Fierstein. Palmer matched up with Banks, who's been under the weather this week. Palmer, that slick shooter, just missed the target.
Dodging quite a bit, and we see Banks taking Zach Palmer. The defensive philosophy for Albany, man-to-man, unforgiving, quick slides. And we saw in the previous sequence, Ranigan matched up on a short stick. They changed that immediately and put the pole on number 31.
You were cautioning us at the outset of the show about Albany's midfield defense having to be very, very good. Guida pressuring now along with Wharton. Steps to a better angle and scores. Kyle Wharton.
The midfield defense for Albany has gotten tightened up since the beginning of the first quarter, but here they allow Rob Guida to split them, and this is almost a little bit of a change-up for Kyle Wharton. When number 42 turns the corner, he typically rips it hard and high. That time he sent it low.
Subject of our Sector Spiders player portfolio, Kyle Wharton. Big-time totals. He goes over 100 career points with that tally.
Coming into 2011, Dave Petramala said he needed more leadership and better practice out of number 42. And he's gotten it, and that's led to better performance for Kyle Wharton in his senior campaign.
Albany gets a touch here offensively. Johns Hopkins has controlled the face-off square. Not giving the Great Danes very many touches. They have one now. An Albany squad that comes in with a mark of 4 and 5. A winner in its recent outing against Harvard. First ever meeting with the Crimson Tide. Joe Resetaritz takes it back behind the cage. He's comfortable there. Scott Marr likes to take attackmen and turn them into midfielders. He likes the lacrosse IQ of attackmen in general. Bonatonobus, his pass gets away. The intended target was Resetaritz. It'll stay Albany ball. This weekend, ESPNU brings you 2 exciting college baseball matchups. Saturday, 8 Eastern, LSU tangling with Arkansas in an SEC showdown. Then Sunday at 5 Eastern, it's an in-state battle. UC Irvine facing Cal State Fullerton. College baseball Saturday and Sunday on ESPNU. UC Irvine and Cal State Fullerton, Big West Conference. Both of those teams are going great guns. The Titans have won 9 in a row.
You mentioned Scott Marr and his affinity for attackmen. Marr was an attackman here at Johns Hopkins. We just touched on it. He likes the hybrid mix. He thinks attackmen can play both midfield and down low offensively, and we're seeing it here tonight with the diversity of Caulfield and Resetaritz.
Kreitzer spins it back for Bonatonobus, and then Resetaritz against Donovan, who is a mountain of a man, 25 in the white. Tough to get around.
But a matchup that Scott Marr wants to exploit with the stick work and the quickness of Resetaritz.
Working around a screen. He got that from Caulfield. Donovan continues to lean on him. Miles Thompson's shot is stabbed by Pierce Bassett. Top 3 in the nation when it comes to save percentage. He pulls down his second stop of this opening half.
And we're seeing Hopkins forcing the Thompsons away from the crease. Interior defense and key tonight for the Blue Jays. They'll let the Thompsons shoot from 10 yards and out all night long.
The man who leads the nation in terms of save percentage in goal, Penn State's Austin Kaut, who recently made 25 stops against UMass.
It is a great year for goaltenders. I just put together a mid-season All-American team for Inside Lacrosse. I got Pierce Bassett as my first teamer, John Galloway as a second teamer, but when you talk about the youngsters, Nico Amato of Maryland, Kaut of Penn State, Brian Feeney at UPenn, and you throw in Tyler Fiorito, Matt Chris of Brown, Jonathan Falcone out of Yale in the Ivy League. I mean, it's just a deep, talented class. And then you've got the senior out of Army, Tom Pileski, and it's just a very deep, talented situation in 2011 for goaltenders.
Good trail check there from Ostrander defensively for the Great Danes. Palmer looking to the inside. That one floats and hits the turf. Bounding to the sideline and not able to catch up with it, Marshall Burkhardt. 5-1 for Johns Hopkins. The only strike in this second quarter coming from Kyle Wharton.
And a great point. We talked about